Welcome to Broadcasting Your Side Hustle, where the goal is to help you start a client attraction podcast so you can stand out in your niche, get more business, and step further into your purpose. All right, the question of the day: should you do solo shows or interview guests for your business podcast? Now, there's pros and cons to each of this, and we're going to go through each of those scenarios. We're going to look at the pros, look at the cons, and that way you can make an informed decision about which direction you want to go. At the end of that, I'm going to give you my personal opinion about what you ought to do. And at the very end of the show, I'll give you some alternatives that if you really want to play the interviewing and guest part, there's two different ways you can do it, both of which will keep your authority intact. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about solo shows. What are the pros and cons of a solo show? So let's start out with the pros. First and foremost, doing a solo show, you are the authority. There's nobody else on screen, nobody else on the mic. It is you. Your audience is listening to you and you alone. That makes you automatically the authority in their eyes. It's a great place to be, great positioning to have. Next up, there's no schedules to juggle. If you're going to interview guests, you're going to have to juggle schedules. Just like setting anything up else in life, trying to coordinate, birthday parties, work events. There's always different people's lives. There's always different schedules to try to accommodate, right? If you're doing a solo show, you got none of that. Now, and there's also no need for booking and reminder software. So if it's just you really probably don't need to remind yourself to show up and record, right? It's just you. So you don't need any of that, which is going to lessen your tech stack and lessen your costs. Next up for pros, we've got you're 100% in control. Because again, it's just you. There's no creative director. There's no talent on the other end. There's no booking coordinator for that talent to deal with. You are in 100% creative control. And if you're doing solo episodes, it's also easier to edit. Whether you're editing yourself or you've got a team that's helping you out, it's just you. One source of video, one source of audio. It's quick, it's easy. And because of that, it helps you stay consistent with your show production. All right, so we've talked about the pros. Now let's get into some of the cons of doing just solo episodes. So first off, it is all you. There's nobody else to rely on, and there's no guests to kind of spice everything up. It is all on you. So for whatever duration of your show, you got to be on camera, you got to be on the mic, however you choose to do it, one or both. You got to be there, straight time, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, whatever budget you have, and you've got to stay engaging. You've got to make sure people can, tune in without tuning out. So it is all on you. Another con is you've got to be highly accountable because, again, there's nobody else that you have to think about. There's no guest that's already on your calendar who is planning on you showing up at a certain time to record the episode. So you got to be highly accountable to yourself and the schedule that you set out. Those are the cons of the solo episode. So now let's move into the interview side of it, if that's something that you're considering doing. So let's talk about the pros of doing an interview show first. Delete Instagram for a week. I'll wait. I know you can't. I understand. But you could join our Podcast to Freedom community, which doesn't require you to. See, every day that you spend scrolling is a day that you did not spend building your client attraction podcast. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you should join Podcast to Freedom. Number 1, and the biggest one, is it's distraction free. We're not on Facebook. We're not on Instagram. So there's no algorithm stealing your attention. Just a bunch of like-minded people getting together to move and build their podcast so they can get out of the 9-to-5 world. Second reason is reciprocity. This is a room built on giving, not performing, not dancing for the algorithm to go viral. You show up, you give value, you get value from people that are exactly where you are, people that are building. And the third reason is access. We get on Zoom every week, live, where you can ask me your questions that you're dealing with right now. No DMs, no messages disappearing into the void. You get answers for what you're dealing with right now. Imagine where you would be in 90 days if you put that scroll time back into building your client attraction podcast. That's why this community exists, to be distraction-free, built on reciprocity, and having actual access that can move the needle. If that sounds like something that's interesting to you, this community is free, it is powerful, and it is growing, and I can't wait to see you in there. Podcast to Freedom. The link is below. Well, first up, you got variety for your audience. Having different guests, your audience sees different people, different opinions, different perspectives. And another pro of doing an interview is you've got cross promotion. So whoever your guest is, they're going to promote their episode of your podcast on their platforms because they want their audience to know, hey, I was out there doing something. I was on this show. Check it out. And vice versa. You're going to promote him and what he's doing or she, and you're just going to go back and forth with that cross promotion and gain more exposure for both of you. So in that instance, it's really a win-win to do interviews. And lastly, you don't carry the show. In fact, if you are interviewing somebody, you really need to be doing 10% of the talking, like at max, 10%. Ask the questions, insert some good points, maybe some things that your interviewee kind of glossed over, but they need to be doing the majority of talking, which makes it really easy for you as a host to do episodes because you really don't have to work a whole lot when you're doing the filming. All right, we got the pros, so let's move into the cons. The cons of doing an interview is it removes you as the authority. Now, you may be saying, Brian, I don't understand. It's my show. How can having somebody as a guest on my show remove my authority? Well, it can, and it does. I don't know if you ever watched Diary of a CEO. I love that podcast. I think Stephen Bartlett does a fantastic job of interviewing his expert guests. But while I'm watching that show, Steve is not the expert. He's not. It's his guest. Now, do I think that Stephen Bartlett is an incredible entrepreneur and somebody to be respected and to gain knowledge from in his fields? Yes, I absolutely do. But when watching Diary of a CEO, no matter how much I respect that man, he is not the authority in that situation. This is something you really have to consider if you're going to have guests on your show. Next up, you've got scheduling and cancellations. Touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's really real. You've got to coordinate schedules. You got to readjust. You're going to have last minute cancellations. It's going to happen. My last podcast, I interviewed successful entrepreneurs and CEOs, and I would say about 10 to 15% of the time, I would get last minute cancellations. It's just a frustration that you're going to have to deal with if you're going to do interviews. And lastly, if you're going to do interviews, you have to have booking and automation reminder software set up. And that reminder software, it has to be text message. People don't check their email like they used to. Email is old hat. You need to be on their phone reminding them that, hey, we've got this podcast scheduled in an hour. We got this podcast scheduled in 30 minutes. Can't wait to see you. Hey, our podcast starts in 10 minutes. I'm really looking forward to it. This is what you need to do because people are busy. They forget. But that also adds to your tech stack and it adds to your cost. So definitely something to consider. So, okay, we've gone through the pros and the cons of both solo and interview episodes. Now I'm going to give you my opinion. And again, this is just my opinion. So you can take it, you can run with it, you can throw it in the garbage, whatever. This is my opinion. Do solo shows. Keep your authority. Keep your consistency. Don't deal with juggling schedules. Do solo shows. If you've got a business partner that also you want to be on the show, great, fine, because chances are you both are in the office or your schedules are very tightly coordinated, so you can do that and still maintain that consistency. But other than that, in my opinion, solo shows are the way to go for your podcast about your business. Now, alternatively, if you wanted to get into the guest game and still keep your authority, there's two ways you can do it. Number one, you can be a guest on somebody else's show. Because just like I mentioned before about having someone on your show, it takes away your authority. You guest on someone else's show, all of a sudden, you're the authority. See how that works? It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And what I would recommend is, if you're going to do that, look for specific niches or businesses that your business or service is a bookend for. And what I mean by that is a business or service that their clients need you either before they come to that business or after they've come to that business. I'll give you a brief example here. Let's say that you sell ski equipment. So the left-handed side of that bookend could be a ski instructor. Because if somebody is going to go see a ski instructor, well, they're going to need gear. They're going to need equipment. So get on podcasts of ski instructors and talk to them about all the different equipment, all the different little variations and customizations that you can do, right? So that's the left bookend. Now, who needs you after a certain business? Well, that would be maybe a travel agent or somebody that runs a travel blog or vlog, right? They do shows about going skiing, being in the mountains. You guest on their show because when their audience watches the shows about skiing in the mountains, well, I want to go, I want to do this, but now I'm going to need gear. Well, you can talk about, again, the gear that you have, and you can also talk about that specific mountain range and what types of gear are best suited for it. Because I'm not a skier, but I would imagine that different mountains, different landscapes, it would be better served to have maybe certain types of gear, of ski equipment that could best navigate that terrain. Again, not a skier, don't really know for sure, just an example. But you get my point. What audience needs you before the podcast that you go on, and what audience needs you after the podcast that you go on? These are the types of things you need to look for because it's most actionable and the most effective for cross-promotion. And if you're going to be a guest on somebody else's show, one of the best things that you can do is you can get on Podmatch. If you've not heard about Podmatch, it is an excellent platform for matching guests and podcast hosts. I've been on there for 2 years plus. This is how I found the majority of the guests for my show, Get Your Entrepreneurship Together. It is a fantastic service. And there's a link in the show notes or in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Click that link, check out Podmatch. It is well worth it. Now let's talk about ways that you can have a guest on your show and keep your authority. You're going to love this. Interview your leads. Let me say that again. Interview your leads. Reach out to people that have become leads for your company and offer to interview them. They haven't bought from you yet. This is a fantastic way to make them excited about dealing with you and your company. It makes them feel seen, like very much paid attention to and valued even before they've bought anything from you. It's an incredible thing to do. It gives you so much authority, so much community building. I just can't say enough about doing this for your show. Now, if you don't have a big lead list yet, or maybe some people, they're just not ready, they're just unsure of themselves, maybe they're just shy or apprehensive, whatever, reach out to your current clients or former clients that are obviously happy with you, right? We don't want people that are mad at you come on your show. But anyways, reach out to those people and interview them to hear their story, hear their experience about what was their life like before they found you and your service. What were they dealing with? And then just walk them through that journey, walk them through that story, so other people that are dealing with the same thing can hear it and understand that you really can solve this problem. You really can guide people out of this hole that you own. If you don't understand what I'm referring to right there, go back and listen to episode 1. And we talk about the most important thing that you need to do when it comes to setting up your business podcast. And that you'll learn more about owning your hole in that. But these are ways that you can leverage the interview and still keep your authority, if that's something that you really want to do. Okay, that is all the pros, cons, and opinions that I have about this particular subject right now. But make sure that you tune in for the next episode, because we're going to talk about the art of the interview. So if that is something that you really want to do for your show, we're going to dive into how to be an excellent interviewer and get the most value out of your guest for your audience. Again, this is something I have years of experience with, interviewing people. I've interviewed over 80 successful entrepreneurs and CEOs. So tune in for that episode. You're not going to want to miss it if interviews is something you want to add. If you did get value out of this episode, please give it a like, subscribe, follow, whatever the platform that you're listening on lets you do. It is very much appreciated. If you didn't get value, you don't have to do any of that. Just enjoy your life. I'm glad you stopped by. And until then, my friend, keep going and peace. We'll see you in the next one.